Hello, ladies and gentlemen. With the announcement to the new DLC Shadow of the Voids and the recent and much appreciated patch that addressed issues such as limited colony projects and many companion quest bugs, here is my guide video on how to approach Chapter 1 to get the perfect run going for your campaign. This guide is also made in unfair difficulty, so for those who wish to test their mettle on unfair, I hope these tips will help you succeed. I won't be given step-by-step instructions for every engagement in Chapter 1, but I will give you tips and hints that should simplify some of the tougher fights in Chapter 1. Especially the very last one, Aurora. It should be mentioned though that the guide is mainly focused on unique items and loot that you can miss, and since Chapter 1 cannot be revisited, I will cover every nook and cranny possible relating to all the unique items and the choices to make to maximize your profit factors and XP gained. So, without further ado, let's start in the tutorial area right after recruiting Argenta, as that's the point in the game where looting starts to matter, and you can miss a few key items. I will speed up this room specifically because I believe most people won't miss these rooms. However, just before approaching the Theodora illusion, I will slow down the video again and go over the first set of items, unique items, that you will come across, and also go over all the 3 possible choices that you can make and the differences they will have on your playthrough. Now in this room, you will come across your first helmet, plus 5 armor, that should probably be equipped on one of your frontliners. Abelard has a better choice coming up soon, right after reaching Theodora's room. But here is where you make your choice between heretical, dogmatic, or iconoclast. We all know that. So, starting with dogmatic, which I believe is the superior choice for most unfair runs, because the talent you get from dogmatic helps your entire team survive. However, in exchange you will lose help from the people that die in this cutscene, which is kind of a bummer, but it is what it is. And for my heretical boys and girls, when you get to choose the heretical choice, you will be teleported to Theodora's room to get the iconic melta weapon that you will probably use for a long time on your character, because you don't even need the proficiency with melta weapons to use it, and it does pack a punch. And then lastly, the iconoclast option, which is the beginner friendly option, especially if it's your first unfair run. I recommend that you make a main character oriented for an iconoclast talents and so forth, as these soldiers that you save will help you during the final boss in the tutorial area. Let's not get ahead of ourselves though. Once you're in Theodora's room, you want to go through the dialogue checks, and if you pass the test you get a little bit of XP, which is always appreciated. You want to check Mort's body to get the dogmatic helmet that helps you resist crits, which is going to be huge and crucial on unfair difficulty for Abelard, or if your main character happens to also be a tank. Also, don't forget to check the vault here to get the fellowship cloak when you are near enemies. It's huge for officers. And after that, just proceed as normal, and then the next engagement you want to focus the mobs around the robot, and that should take care of this fight. And now just a quick glance at the gear I'm using to engage the boss. You want to put a shotgun on Argenta, so once you clear the mobs around the boss, you move in point blank and shoot the boss. It'll do a lot of damage. You want to keep medium armor on her, and then the helmet for the 5+ armor, because she might take some damage. Adira, nothing really changed with her, but you do want to keep the pistol on her, because it's the only way to use her ultimate from a safe distance and reduces the boss's dodge and parry. And the main guy here, Abelard, you want to give him as much Medicaze as possible, and the helmet that prevents crits or gives him immunity to crits. As for the weapon choice, is up to you really, but I recommend keeping the chainsword on him so he could have a higher chance of parrying. And maybe switch to the axe between rounds to put the bleed on the boss, just to help you melt him down a little bit, preferably once you clear all the trash around. Last but not least, the necklace is the toughness necklace, and you should get this from the trash that was before the boss, the one with the servitor. Once you clear it and loot the heretic, he should give you the necklace. Now moving on to the talents. For Abelard, you always want to go with thick skin, just to make him more tankier, therefore able to engage the boss. And for Aurora, you want to go with Uncanny Sight, so you could spread exploits across all the mobs. Electricity for Argenta, depending on how you want to build her throughout the campaign. For Chapter 1, I recommend to always build her as a sniper, so good options would be Camaraderie, or even Fired Up. You can also go with Tenderize, but I went with Electricity, however you pronounce it, because in this fight she will be using a bolter and probably shooting a lot of shots, so we'll be getting a lot of agility. The main character for this playthrough was an officer, so if you have one, I recommend Focus. Now as for the positioning, you want to put your main character normally next to Argenta, maybe Aurora on the left there to get a cheeky chain lightning at the beginning of the fight, if you are lucky with the initiative rolls. If you have an officer, always start with Abelard, so you can buff him up a little bit to engage the boss. If he's positioned there, the boss will 9 times out of 10 go for him. I also used the Commissar buff and shot Abelard to buff my other teammates. You want to start with the exploits on the boss, chain lightning on the boss, it'll catch the 2 next to it. And as you can see, Abelard is the one engaging the boss. Because we are immune to crits, we therefore can survive his attacks on unfair. You always want to heal when his turn is up. The only downside is if he's knocked down. That's kind of a deal breaker for most of the attempts, but we got lucky this time and he stood up, basically. Now when you get Argenta turns or any of the characters, your main goal is to once again just clear the ads, slowly but surely. Once you get all of them down, that's your cue to focus on the boss. So try not to get the DPS too close to the boss because he will switch towards them. You don't have a taunt this early. And right now I have an officer talent, so I went ahead and used it on Aurora so I can guarantee hits on the last few guys here. If you don't have an officer, maybe save your ultimate for Aurora so you could put the dodge debuff on the boss using your pistol. Now following these rules, you should have an easy time with this boss, even on unfair. So this should be the last guy. Finish him off, debuff the boss, make sure you have 3 or 4 stacks of exploit before you expose weakness. And slowly but surely, oh, this also happens sometimes, or if he doesn't have anyone to sacrifice or leech off of, he will die and respawn with full health. Another reason why you should probably leave him last. He does become weaker though if this bug does occur on your playthrough, so don't panic. One of the advantages of having this bug happen is that you can walk out of his range without risking attacks of opportunity. so you could sneak in some charges between your auto attacks on Abelard, but always make sure that Abelard ends his turn next to the boss. And with that, we will capitalize on this fact and just slowly burn him down, while making sure that Argenta and Abelard keep their healths up using the Medcays. And whenever Adara is up, she just keeps putting exploits, expose weakness, and then her shift 2 skill, the Psychic Shriek. And that should cover this fight. Once all of that is covered, and you do Argenta and Abelard's side quests on the ship, the way you want to navigate Chapter 1 is first you want to go to Eurac V, Thunderfang to open the shop, then Rykad Philia. Once in Eurac V and about to engage the gunner's room right after passing the athletics check, make sure that Abelard has a shotgun on him, as it'll come in handy the next engagement. So pretty much after passing the athletics check and disarming the 2 traps located here, you want to approach this fight from this area. I find it easier to do so on Unfair, and your main goal is to position your frontliners close enough to charge and do things, and to basically take out the commander, or any of the squishies around the commander. But generally speaking, if the commander goes down, the rest of the fight should be simple. I did end up with a lot of bad RNG in this fight, so I accumulated some traumas and stuff. So maybe you'll have better luck than me, because you will be going through a lot of checks to unlock the next section of the map. So the less traumas you have, the better. Once you clear this room, make sure you loot everything, starting with the 8 items you need to do the Eurac V lab puzzle. You can get 2 stems out of it, so this is the first item. You can get 2 stems out of it and some XP. And so to maximize our XP gain during Chapter 1, I'm going to show you how to do the puzzle to get the 2 stems. We will just do our lap in the room, collecting everything. Make sure you loot this area. There is a check here that I've already passed. I'm going to check the shelves here. Some of them are lore items, some of them are supplies. And this should be one of the puzzle items, however we're not going to use this one. They do give you extra items for a 3rd possible item, but it never works for me. And so far, when I looked up information on this puzzle, there doesn't seem to be a 3rd item combination. So after clearing everything here, make sure you disarm. You do the athletics check here to get the persuasion gloves that you can give to Cassia, or if your main character is a persuasion type. On the table you will find your next puzzle item, possibly on one of the guards here also. No, it's just a lower item. This room is highly important to unlock. Because of my traumas, I had to, well, do the check on all of them. So make sure you quick save if you happen to have a lot of traumas. This is a supply cabinet, I think, but the more the merrier to maximize all the factions, the two factions that you'll interact with pretty soon after Eurac V. And here on this closet is a huge upgrade for Argenta. Both the chest and the sniper rifle are a must on her if you want to finish Unfair Chapter 1 easily. It's highly recommended that you build her as a sniper. And then after that, if you like the heavy gunner build or whichever you have in mind, you could respec her for free after. Once you reach this cogitator, you want to go through all the dialogue checks and make sure you pass the tech skill check that will come up soon. That will give you access to the rest of the stuff on the cogitator. When it comes to the doors, just check everything, because there will be a secret door that you can interact with to get an extra item. I'm gonna skip this cutscene, and then that should cover the cogitator. Also, don't forget to turn on the elevator, walk back to receive a helmet that will give you bonus to warp checks based on your willpower. It's good to have on either Adira or Cassia, or possibly a Psyker main character. Now all we have to do is continue collecting the puzzle items and finish Eurac V. This is the room where you do the puzzle. There should be one more item to pick up here. Okay. There's some lore stuff. Some more lore stuff. First thing you want to do is grind 2 items in this transducer, starting with the crystal and then the adamantine. And after you have these 2 items, you want to approach the stuff on the right here and insert the following items. Starting with the mutated flesh sample, and then the H41, and a biogel, I believe, yes. And then finishing with the crystal dust. Craft everything. That should give you a stem that helps with toxic damage, various good stuff. Then the next item should be the flesh sample, the KO4, adamantine dust, and finish off with the acid. Craft everything, and that gives you a very decent stem, I think, called Warp Neutrality, which makes you immune to warp damage, but prevents you from casting psychic stuff. And that finishes everything. You can continue playing Eurac V normally. Once you finish the place though, and go through Cassia's event to attune with the ship, make sure that you loot everything in Eurac V to get 2 profit factors. After Eurac V, when I finish Cassia's quests to attune to the ship and all that. Then interact with Thunderfang and Rykad Philia is your next stop. Once there, and after clearing the prisoners with the grenades and stuff, you want to go to this corner right here where there would be a painting with a awareness check. There's a lot of traps here, also you might be mindful of that. After passing the check, you have a stash to collect, which will give you a dagger. That's not so great, so I threw it in the cargo. But if you're playing an assassin or something, it might be nice, because it is one of the high damaging daggers that you can get in Chapter 1. And then the dagger next to it on the left is from the trash that I just killed, which in my opinion is better because it gives bleed stacks. After that, continue looting and unlock this door using a tech check, and then interact with these bandits. There is a way to always guarantee getting a discount for Chapter 2, and the way you do so is by going through all the dialogue and going with number 5 or 6. It'll come up here in a bit. I'm just going through all the dialogue to make sure that I get the discount. Very well, I shall spare you is the choice you want to pick. And then that'll give you some information on some factions. And this is the confirmation of the discount. And here you can just pick whichever you desire, whether it's dogmatic, points, or iconoclast, etc. Loot them if you decided to kill them. Unlock this door. You will have access to 2 items. Decent staff, never used it though, to be honest. And then a cloak that's good for warriors. And the infamous foe hammer, which is a shotgun pistol. You could give it to Abelard or your main character if they're a frontliner. After that, you can exit and connect the shortcut. And the rest is pretty straightforward. Really, I don't feel like I need to explain it, but I will go over it quickly. Once you're in this room, it's better to approach from the backside by unlocking this door, passing these checks for more XP, looting everything in your path. And this fight is not really hard or anything, but there is a trick to it where you want to kill the lenses and the mobs and then leave the boss last. Once you kill him, he drops a unique sword called the Noble Sword, and it's pretty good if you have a psyker, fighter, or anyone that uses willpower. After Eurac V and Rykadi Philia, check back with Thunderfang, dump all the cargo, make sure you get the maximum rep you can. It won't guarantee that you'll grab all the items, but it's worth checking out things like the fencing body glove, the noise suppression helmet, stalker gloves, reaper cape, the two-handed axe, that's pretty nice. Pneumo boots are a must grab, because you either give it to Abelard or your main character, just any warrior. It'll be a huge gameplay impact for him. These are also amazing chests. I gave them to my officer, main character. The two-handed sword is not so great, but the metal of electricity, the pneumo boots, the fencing body glove, I believe these items are essential for most groups that you can make. Stalker gloves are also nice, but there are better gloves for Argenta coming up soon in Rykad Minoris. Also, if you haven't already done so, you want to go back to your ship, into your own office room. Make sure you grab the DLC items there would be a chest in this chair right here that will give you the face of the Sovereign, which is not really a must-have, but the cloak is very, very nice for your main character. It gives you 5 all characteristics. And this is the vault we got the cloak from. And this chest gives you the rest of the DLC items, consisting of a blast wave shotgun that always knocks down enemies even if you miss, a decent auto pistol, depending on your build really, but I never had to use it personally, but it is a nice addition. The Wrath of Saint Jerusalem sword is a decent sword. The Negotiator pistol that gives you +5 persuasion, and a melting effect if you land hits with it. Now that you've checked with Thunderfang and your DLC items, because the next section is pretty much the hardest to clear unless you are prepared, is Rykad Minoris. Once you land there, you can go through the dialogue. You want to make sure you loot the stuff behind the ship, which didn't do so here. This is a different playthrough that I happen to have footage of, and so decided to use it. This first engagement isn't really hard, but I'll give you some tips on how to do it with the least amount of traumas. You want to start with Argenta, targeting the squishies to possibly get an early ult or just an easier time clearing the gunners, as they happen to be the squishiest. Idera also will come in handy in clearing the units that are bunched up together. Just keep sniping. The main reason why you want to play her as a sniper from Chapter 1 is she does make this entire map a breeze to go through. If you decide to play her otherwise, on unfair especially, it might be, it's not impossible, it's just a lot rougher. And once Idera is up, or Cassia, you want to position her in a way to try to get the gunners on the left side of the ship, or the right side rather. And if you finish all the gunners off, the rest of the engagement should be easier. Just make sure you don't expose your casters too much like I'm doing here, because I will suffer for it in a bit. But yeah, it is the best way I know of to go through this without too much traumas. After replaying the segment a bit more until I had a perfect start to the map with no traumas, you want to go up the stairs here, past this Imperium check to get a really good cloak, an officer cloak that extends the shouts and their buffs by 1 cell. Interact with this chest, and then go interact with the soldier here. And go through his dialogue for a decent amount of XP. He is also connected to one NPC in the prison planet where we rescued Winterscale, but there doesn't seem to be a reward for it. Now this engagement is pretty difficult on unfair, I'd say. My method is to usually drag them towards the bridge by positioning Argenta in this corner, as she does have vision on some of them, not all of them, but that keeps her safe. And then Idera can be on this fence here to land some AoEs. Same goes for Cassia, the opposite fence. And I'd like to start with Abelard and kind of lure them in slowly. I will speed through this though, because the video is getting to be pretty long, and we haven't been to Aurora's fight yet. Once you clear it and take your time with it, you should get minimal injuries, no traumas, which is great. And here, just to confirm that it is on unfair. You want to go to this room to get another amazing upgrade for Argenta. And down here would be a Sacre Staff for Pyromancers. Some of you would appreciate it, I guess. I don't have a Pyromancer in this team, so I think I'll just put it in the cargo to get more reputation. Once inside the room, pick the safe. If you don't have a team that can do it, you can also recruit Pascal and come back here and do it. This will give you the light flak armor, which gives you +5 agility and the parry chance against melee. We mainly want it for the Agi, as it is the best chest to have on Argenta if you play her as a sniper. Then you want to play normally, clearing the traps, and after this you can recruit Pascal and finally have a full team to play with. We'll go over the leveling and the stuff at the very end before Aurora's fight, but first I want to get the biggest chunk of the video out, which is the looting. Here you will find a bolter that at first glance doesn't look amazing, but the reason why it's considered an upgrade is because if you notice, if you compare the two bolters, it has less rate of fire but way better recoil control, so and obviously more damage, so it is an upgrade for Argenta for sure. Then you take the escalator, elevator, whatever, and you can loot this light chest for agility based characters. It is amazing. You get 5% extra dodge if your agility is more than 40. And for this fight, if you turn on the turrets, even on unfair, it'll cheese the fight quite significantly, so yeah, we could safely skip this one. The next section, we want to go through the ambush sequence, mainly focusing on the fire starters, as they will be the troublemakers for you. As for the rest of the units, they should be pretty straightforward and easy to deal with. Once cleared, you want to disarm the trap, go downstairs, finish looting all the trash, and a very unique cloak, if you want to call it that, is hidden in one of these statues here, next to this chest. And this is gonna be one of the key items that you need to give to either Pascal or one of the units that you want to stay alive. In my case, it was Pascal, because I want him to debuff Aurora as much as possible, and Aurora is kind of a bastard of a fight. So this one is pretty straightforward. However, the melee are no joke. They do hit you pretty hard, so you might want to focus on killing all 4 of them and just slowly picking off the gunners. So distribute the team the way you see fit, and the fight should be easy. Now you should spot a path to clear, and then this chest will have an upgrade for Abelard, a officer's chainsword. And then I'm slowly just clearing the rest of the map. I like to approach it from this side. This is a tough engagement coming up. I will just try to summarize since we are running out of time. It feels like the video is longer than intended. If you're still watching, I truly appreciate it. Try to position the snipers in the high ground. That includes Pascal. He's not really a sniper at this point, but it's better to keep him in the high ground, I believe. And the frontliners can hold the front, obviously. Kill the fire starter cultists and avoid spawning any chaos spawns from kneeling cultists, and this engagement should be easy. It's worth noting that some of them do suicide, so careful with your frontliners also. Once you get the perfect fight with the least amount of trauma possible, you can loot this side. You do have a hidden, or not a hidden, but a chest with a heretical piece. I threw it in the cargo, as I'm not really doing a heretical playthrough. Do make sure to loot everything though, because there is so much cargo that you can miss on, and it's required if you want to get all the items from the vendor. Approach from this side afterwards. Try to disarm it and not trigger the trap like an ape, like I just did. So this section we will not approach just yet. We want to finish clearing the map, so after doing all of that you want to come back to where you killed these cultists, because the next fight is kind of challenging, and approaching it from this side should help make it easier, as it will bug the sniper up top. He seems to not be able to reach your characters if you position them this side of the building. After clearing everything, you want to make sure you loot these chests on the balcony. You got a decent helmet for Abelard, and these gloves for Argenta, and a second sniper rifle for one of your characters. We're not going to need it, as we do have the last sniper, which should cover us for Chapter 1. Now we could finally do the optional content, which is the warehouse section. It should pack some amazing loot. And the fight is pretty straightforward. You want to prioritize the gunners and the sacker, who will eventually summon a demon. Abelard can handle a demon easily. but your main focus is to get the Psyker and the Gunners out of the way. Once you clear everything, you want to loot the safe to get a decent cloak for Adira, since she takes a lot of warp damage. It's good to have it on her. And now we will proceed with the puzzle of this room. Just make sure that you clear all the traps and the steams, and then you approach the cogitator first. And this will be your first relay. And the second one. And number 3 is all the way up here in this corner. And then last but not least would be right next to the sewers entrance. After that, you should be able to interact with the safe to get one of the most broken necklaces, I'd say, in Chapter 1. I always give it to Cassia, as it will help with her AoEs and stuff by igniting enemies. After that, you want to clear the sewers section. There will be 4 warp checks that you could do. Keep the 4th one here because it summons the boss. It is a long boss fight. My only recommendation is that you position everyone on the bridge to have an easier time. Once you kill him, you can have this necklace or pendant, which you will give to Argenta. Now, for the sake of time, I've skipped the room before the governor's or the command center, but you want to check all the corners and do the event. You would have a helmet for Cassia for lower Imperium checks. Once you're here, though, you want to interact with this cogitator first, and then before talking to the governor, talk to this tech priest. It's pretty hard to miss, but he is the explorator vendor, and that will be your second faction on Chapter 1. And that should cover all the factions. They have amazing items, and by the end of the monastery section, you should be able to buy everything from both factions. Right after interacting with the governor, Rykad Minoris will have an event that you want to check. There will be a skill check that's not necessary to pass, I think, but it does give a lot of XP. Then you want to go with the first choice to get a lot of supplies and some Drakari items early in the game. Unfortunately, you can't use it until level 22, even if you want to spec into it. After that, feel free to dump some more cargo, buy what you can, and we're almost done with Chapter 1. Now we're in the monastery. You want to check all the stuff around the ship, as you can get some more supplies and cheap XP from the checks. And once again, we'll go through the levels at the very end of the video, just for the sake of time. I'm speeding through everything. Once you get that covered, just head towards this room first to get a very powerful buff that'll make the map a breeze, pretty much. Talk to this tech priest, pass all the checks, recite his prayer, and then you should get a powerful buff that will reduce shock damage taken by 50%. You can go through the ambush now. With the buff, even on unfair, the fight is pretty easy. You'll take pretty much no damage. And you can take your time clearing the priests. After that, we reach the next room, which has the puzzle. You want to go with 3, 5, 4 to unlock the vault and get more unique items. After that, we could finally recruit Heinrichs. I like to replace him with Adira since he's kind of mandatory to have in this map. Past this cogitator check to unlock another vault that'll give you access to more unique items. Staff that you could give to Adira. And an okay chess piece. As for this section, once you clear it, my only tip is that you just position them in the very beginning, and then the mobs will slowly bunch up at the stairs. It's a very dragged out fight, so skip the entire thing. You want to go through this athletic check to get your plasma weapon for Pascal. It is highly recommended to build him as a plasma wielding person. It makes things a lot easier in chapter 1. And play the next section the way you want. Once you reach the priests, I wanted to demonstrate that I didn't have a fully unlocked tier 1 dogmatic thing, but just because I had a little bit of points, I was able to grab the dogmatic buff, which I kind of recommend if you're playing this on unfair, because the next fight is pretty challenging. I'll quickly cover the mechanics of this fight. You should split your team in threes, covering both sides, and you are on a timer. If you don't kill any of the priests within 3 rounds, you will pretty much lose. So your goal is to always prioritize the priests, and if you split your team correctly, this should be an easy job. Once the fight is over, do the pick that you find is appropriate for your playthrough, dogmatic, iconoclast, etc., and make sure you loot everything in the room. And once we are back in the command center, we are finally at the home stretch. There will be one thing to do though, which is to check with the factions. After talking to the governor, do not start the inauguration process. You will get 5 profit factors, and you want to say that you have other businesses to attend to, just so you can cover the factions and buy all the items you need before the inauguration. You should have a total of 20 profit factors if you followed everything, which is grabbing the loot from Eurac V and all the steps that I've mentioned throughout the video. You'll get access to an amazing chess piece for Abelard, which will help him be even more tankier for Aura, or Aurora. So now get back to the ship, and you could speak to Janruk or generous to get access to the other vendor and buy everything else, and that should clear all the vendors and their unique items. And now you are safe to start the inauguration and end the chapter. And now we'll go over the gear that you need before facing Aurora. So you want tactical goggles on Argenta, light flak armor, the metronome from one of the factions, I believe it's the explorators, the bolt gun, even though you're not going to use it, you're going to use your las sniper mostly to snipe the other sniper. And then the pendant for the slows, the sniper gloves. You also have the option of using the other set of gloves, this one, stabilizing bracers. Whenever you use run and gun, you get more damage on your next attack. The cloak is the camouflage robe. And then as for the boots, it's the skirmisher boots. And you always want to have medicays and bombs on all of your allies. And now we'll go over the talents if you're building your as a sniper, which I highly recommend. You want to start with integrity, so you get 10 more ballistic points, which is crucial for the opener in the start of Aurora's fight to have higher chances of hitting the sniper. Agility, camaraderie, so that when you stack her with an ally you get more damage. It's pretty straightforward. Agility, so you can maximize your initiative. Dash to reposition if you're caught off guard. Ballistic points if agility's capped. Shield of Faith, so that when you give her willpower from Cassia's buff, she can generate more momentum to give you more ults. Unpredictable, she gets a critical hit chance against enemies when she is protected by cover. She is the demolition expert, so always go for demolition. For the ultimate upgrades, if you're doing the sniper, you only have two choices really. You want to start with this one, and then grab the first one. That should give you the best options for a sniper Argenta. Pretty straightforward, I think. Then you can go with fired up. More ballistic. And entrench is the only thing you could do as a sniper really, and it's a solid spell to have all around. Awareness after demolition. More perception if agility is maxed. Las weapon expert, so the sniper has, or any target really has, a penalty on dodge. Trace the trajectory. When anyone hits you while you're behind cover, you can guarantee a crit on them. Doing my part so that your first self buff or anything that you do costs less AP. And then for the last two levels, you can grab one of the generic things, for example, more agility or more ballistic, or give her more HP with the it will not die generic talent. Then for the skills, you want to go with demolition, and then the second alt upgrade. And now moving to Pascal, you get this plasma gun right before meeting Aurora, pretty much. It is highly recommended that you use it. Not many upgrades on him. The helmet though is a good choice from one of the vendors. I gave him the sniper's gloves and the other gloves to Argenta, the running gun gloves. This backpack is highly recommended on him because you need him to debuff the boss. Heinrichs was with me on this playthrough as an assassin, so here's a look at his items. This should be given to someone else. That was a mistake. This should be given to my officer. Attacks of opportunity gloves. And then the cloak where he gets less crits. Pneumo boots could go either to him or Abelard. As for Abelard, he went with the Helm of Determination, the chest from the Explorators, Mark of the Ruler, Officer Chainsword, any revolver works, a shotgun for emergencies, the Toughness Necklace, First Aid Manual from the Explorators, Gloves of Endurance, and the Dodge Cloak from using heroic acts. And as for Cassia, the helmet is not critical or anything. Nothing major. The only change would be the necklace or the pendant. She's still using the Persuasion gloves, officer, back, and the Warmonger boots. Quick look at my main character. This is an officer slash vanguard, so I built him more as a tank. He's using medium armor, chest, chainsword, negotiator pistol, blast wave, the pendant of electricity, a needle ring, and then the DLC cloak. Now we're going to look at everyone else's talents, starting with Abelard. He is the key component to make this fight easier. We want a taunt for sure, it is mandatory. And then we have a few optional things later. Feel free to pause, I'm going through them quickly for the sake of time. This is a must for the buff to your other melee units. More parry. For the ultimate upgrades, you want him to be more defensive, and then the last one for more damage. More weapon skill. Sworn enemy. Stronger together to give everyone else more toughness. Weapon skill. If you don't like this pick, you can go with doing my part, or better to die for the Emperor, because he will drop below critical health surely, and this will help him just to survive better, I'd say. Rigorous training, so he can close the gap and still move around. Medicae, strength. No heresy, because Aurora is a demon, or Xenos. I think he's the demon actually. And if you don't like no heresy, you could go with better to die for the Emperor, or doing my part, or even it will not die, as it will give him more HP. But I managed to survive without it, so I figured the extra armor and the extra crit to my allies on Aurora is better. But you do have options. The only thing that's mandatory truly is the taunt, I think. And sworn enemies, so you can get some aggressive value out of parking him next to Aurora and tanking. As for the rest of the allies, I will refrain from commenting further, but feel free to pause through and watch the picks I've made. He is built more as a buffer slash assassin, I'll say that much. And yeah, any questions you could feel free to ask in the comments, and I'll address them when I can. I left the main character for last. It's worth to comment on at least. This is a very highly experimental build, to say the least. Probably not recommended. It's a officer slash vanguard. Obviously it's not a vanguard at the moment, but it's in the process of becoming one, so you might see some questionable talents like heavy armor and so forth. If you're interested in learning more about this build, I can make a video dedicated to it. It is currently in Act 4. I was experimenting with it because of one item that I thought would yield more ways to exploit the game, I would say, but it didn't turn out to be the case. Nonetheless, it is a very strong build. It ended up being very strong. And if you're interested, I'll throw a link to it once I make it somewhere in this video. Now finally to the moment of truth, Aurora's fight. I did make one big mistake during the fight, but it didn't backfire or anything, so I rolled with it and it paid off in the end. So I'll do some commentary over my thought process during the fight and how you're supposed to play it out. So this is the way I distributed my units, trying to spread them out in case the taunt doesn't land. It is absolutely crucial though for the taunt to land to make this process a whole lot easier. I started with buffing Sanctic buffs on all my units, giving them deflection, then giving more toughness to Abelard, and then I use Bring It Down on Abelard to use the taunt. And then once I see that it lands, I can commit to the other buffs, like Endure, Brace for Impact, and lastly Sworn Enemy. And then as you can see, he's moving up to Abelard, and Abelard's practically taking no damage, which is perfect. On her turn, I decided to give Argenta some willpower so she could snipe and build momentum. And then I decided to land a hit and try to Bring It Down on someone like Argenta. And I think this is where the mistake happened. Yes, I meant to dash closer to Heinrichs to get the camaraderie buff rolling, but I ended up using Entrench instead. But I kept rolling with it. Now we're up on Abelard. We want to throw whatever we can in terms of damage. And also refresh our Endure. I used the ring. I just decided to skip my roll here. This is why I put Heinrichs in front of Argenta, just so he could dodge the hit or take it. He at least can survive it. Refresh the or give my team some more resolve, and then position Heinrichs in such a way to block these units from approaching Argenta. Then I refreshed Endure and used Full Hammer on these units here, which managed to kill one of them. Great start, absolutely wonderful start. Now I'm thinking, what should I do with my officer? Maybe I should try to land an attack of opportunity. It missed, but nonetheless, it was worth a try. And then I thought maybe I should use Bring It Down on Pascal and start debuffing the boss now that I have the perfect start to this fight. I always want to use that debuff on the boss to make him do less damage. Joint analysis, and then exploits on the boss. And now that Argenta is up, I want to park her right behind Heinrichs to get the camaraderie buff. for a little bit more damage. And then I moved into snipe. The next shot here after running gun. And the sniper is almost dead. Not quite. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to dash towards cover and then use entrench to save all these action points for the next turn. Now Pascal is up, so I figured maybe I should use Machine Communion in case he decides to use his gun, the boss that is. He'll have more recoil, and I gave him more exploits since joint analysis is still rolling. Now that Cassia is up, I'm giving her willpower this time because her and Argenta are really the carries in terms of damage for this fight. So I went ahead and did some damage there. Decided to go with another Pascal round of Bring It Down. Checking his debuffs. Everything is up, so I can move in for the attack. One more exploits, and then a plasma shot. Now that Abelard is up, I'm checking to see how many rounds are left on the taunt. More than enough. So I reapplied Sworn Enemy. Decided to attack a little bit. I missed. It's to be expected. I could refresh the taunt just in case, but he resisted. It's all good. Now they're gathering all around Heinrichs, but Heinrichs is a assassin with high dodge. He even dodged the sniper shot like a Chad. So now I'm giving my team even more resolve, refreshing the deflection. Decided to go with a cleave, and then end my turn, I believe. Yeah. I gave him a voice of command and then break their ranks so he could possibly take out one of the ads to support him a little bit. Bring it down on Argenta to finish off the sniper, which will give me access to my ult. And I went ahead and used my officer ult on Cassia, and that kind of sealed the deal to kill the boss. I used all of my points on the boss, therefore finishing him, saving all the shuttles, and at this point you could say GG, easy clap. And that's how I like to do Aurora on Unfair. It's safe to say that even if my main character is not an officer, if you follow these guidelines to the fight, you could easily do this. However, having two officers is probably the way if you want an easier time at this. If not, you could start your first Bring It Down spell on Abelard to get the taunt off. That is the crucial move that will have all the dominoes fall in place for you, basically. So once the taunt lands, everything else can be slowly achieved. Your next step is to take out the sniper, build up enough momentum, and if Cassia is your only officer, to use Finest Hour, then your next bet is to give Finest Hour to Pascal, because plasma weapons are the best option to fight Aurora. He has the least resistance towards plasma rifles or guns, and you could just dump all the plasma shots at him instead of using the navigator skills. And with that said, it's been a very long video. If you stuck around to watch it, I really appreciate it, and I hope you've learned something. If you have any questions or thoughts, leave them down in the comments and I'll answer them to the best of my ability. With that said, don't forget to leave a like, and yeah, have a good one.